I'm Damon Appel with Ohio Election Forum, and I'm out here in Mansfield area, or Lexington?
Lexington.
Yeah, with Tim Grady, who's intending to run as a write-in candidate for governor. And I guess you're still looking for lieutenant governor at this point.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? We were talking about that a little bit.
I'm looking to solidify a lieutenant governor, although I would not really include a lieutenant governor much in the campaigning, as it is a position of my campaign to eliminate the office of lieutenant governor, because it's $140,000 a year and they don't do anything.
Sure. So who would be the backup in such a situation like that? Like if something happened to you, if you were governor and then you couldn't perform the office, who would do it?
I feel like you could just as easily devolve to the Secretary of State or Attorney General.
Attorney General, perhaps. Yeah, I guess. But then he's running two departments, I guess, right?
They have subordinates.
Yeah.
You can create a new process, but the lieutenant governor. I mean, when was the last time we lost a governor in Ohio?
Well, too bad we haven't lost the current one, I guess.
I mean, John Husted, he's there, he's waiting, he's got a second job.
Let's get into that. Like, so what do you think of Governor DeWine?
Well,
how's his job? How has he been doing these last 4 years, 3.5?
Fine, mediocre. I'm not. I don't have high expectations from most people who go into office in Ohio, who are running for things, Republican, Democrat. They're just, they're avatars for their party, which some people may say that's what they should be. Of course, a lot of the party has shifted under from DeWine, even though he started as the most conservative governor in Ohio history, which is
well, I mean,
they also said that of Kasich, and now he's like the moderate endorsed Joe Biden in 2020. So it's all.
I think a lot of the people who are on Ohio Election Forum would be most interested. Like, what do you think of? And we don't want to say certain words here because it's Facebook. I'm sure with a YouTube channel like you have, there's certain things you can say, and there's certain things like pop up warnings. But in the last couple of years, 2.5 years we've seen lockdowns, we've seen forced medical instruments, procedures.
So you want to know?
So what's your thought? Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Well. Pandemic honestly seems so far in the past at this point. Like
still got people walking
came out like a year and a half ago, I think. So the first 4 to 6 months of his pandemic response, I'm just gonna have to give as like a gimme. I can't, in retrospect. Looking back, obviously, there are a lot of things a lot of people could have been doing a lot better. But I can't say if I was in his place for those first 6 months, I don't know what I would have done differently, because I would have been basically listening to people who are doing. I think, shutting down schools, bars, restaurants, a lot of that stuff in the first few months without a solid knowledge of how things are happening. It seems prudent in those first few months.
Yeah.
And then the year and a half that followed that, people never adjusted. People never adjusted their policy from their first freak out 6 months to do something.
Well, so let's look at the reality of this. So you're looking to run as a write-in candidate, and there may be other people that may be looking at the same thing right now. And we're here on, August 20th for this interview. I'm not sure when I'll have this all edited together, so we're usually not talking about it. But so, I mean, it's a long shot of long shots, right, as a write-in.
I'm running a losing campaign. Let's be honest.
So are you serious
So is
about it? Or?
Nan Whaley. She's running a losing campaign. She's not going to win that. She's 15 points behind. Probably, optimistically, could get within 5%. She's going to lose. But does anyone care? No. I am all about losing. It's in my website.
That's it.
Campaigns are more than just about winning elections, because more than half of people who run, assuming contested elections, tend to lose, and there's a lot of time, money, manpower that goes into that. I think you should do something good with that.
Okay.
Campaigns are, government's not as powerful as we like to think, but democracy and elections is what helps define America's culture. It defines who we are. And campaigns are when we talk about, what we believe in, we decide what we believe in, and we pick a direction as a society. Like, so much of the future of our country doesn't depend on the government. It depends on us, what we do, what we aspire to in our lives, in our communities, in our religious organizations, in our schools, in our work. It's about us, and we set a lot of the principles, the ideals we try and live by in the campaigns. Trump has been extremely transformative for the culture. He did, various things in office, but his biggest impact is exemplifying, bringing to the forefront different currents in our culture and making those extremely defining for many, many people.
So
I'm being realistic.
I've got a couple questions off of this. Yeah. So let's go with the fun one first. Let's say you file as a write-in before the 29th, right? By the 29th, you have your lieutenant governor, which you're still looking for, right? Did you searching for an exact?
Looking for someone.
Okay.
Very fun.
All right. Okay. So, but let's say you do your campaign of disruption. It sounds kind of like what it is, or just awakening and disruption, or challenging, putting
believing in yourself.
Something in the gears.
Self-improvement seminar.
Okay. I saw that on the thing. You have something where you say, that's right, 33% of this campaign is just self-help seminars, support groups, and team building exercises. So what you just told us is basically the definition of that. You're trying to have fun, alert the people, bring out what people's beliefs are. Is that kind of what you're?
Well, I'm not trying to bring out people's beliefs. I'm trying to ideally get people to have a more positive attitude and outlook on life and politics.
All right.
Because politics has become incredibly
dark,
partisan, sectarian. People talking about violence. People are like, maybe I'm okay getting rid of democracy and elections as long as my people are in charge and we keep the other people out.
Okay.
That's bad. That's a dark place to go.
Sure.
I want us to go in a different direction.
Sure. So let's say, though, you have this campaign. I still don't know exactly how to call it then, really. But, okay, and you have this, and you're running, and you actually interest people. And you interest people enough that they actually flick that lever. And something you never expect happens. And
1 million write-in votes.
and Tim Grady is elected as governor. So are you saying then that if there's another pandemic, you would lock us down?
No. Well, I guess that depends on the pandemic. If it's way worse than this, way more people, you gotta work on information. I was a big fan of the just mass testing thing in the early months where we would be like...
You were or you weren't?
We didn't do any mass testing. We did very little testing. CDC screwed up the tests in the first place. Didn't really work. Everything's about trade-offs. You have to work with the information you have.
Do you think that freedom is something that, like personal liberty, do you think that's a trade-off? Is personal liberty
There are
ever?
trade-offs to personal liberty to an extent in just a human existence. Liberty is
Well,
something I
everything's
try and-
balance. Everything's balance. Yes, you can't go out and you can't go to a award ceremony and just slap someone in the face and then laugh about it, right? No. But there are consequences. Yes, there are built-in consequences. There are consequences in the law. But when someone's telling you, hey, in order to keep your job, you better put this into your body, isn't that beyond the limit of freedom? Isn't that, if I say to you, hey, I don't know what we got here, hey, put this on top of your hat and keep it that way for the next, the rest of the interview, is that fair for me to do?
So with regard to vaccine requirements for occupational things, I think that's reasonable in a few set conditions: hospitals, nursing homes, probably education, where people have to be in schools with lots of other people, as our public or private education systems tend to work. But for most jobs, I don't think
How do
really
you
be a requirement.
how do you determine that, and who should determine that? Maybe that's the better question. It's like, it's not just what was done. Who did it? Was Governor DeWine, or would Governor Grady be the person who should be deciding what the list is? I mean, we just did it here, right? On the fly. But how deep does that list go? Someone could then argue, well, hey, if they're coming to my door and give me mail, they better have it too. I'm just saying, like, so. But who should it be? Should it be the governor? Should it be the legislature? Should it be the courts? Who should be the one doing that?
I frankly believe legislatures should have the most power, but should they have that power over our lives? Hard to say.
But should the governor?
Let me get to
Should the governor have that power over people's lives?
Well, here's what I'll say. With regard to, I'm pretty, absolutist on bodily autonomy.
Okay.
I mean, you have people who are afraid of vaccines for whatever mostly unfounded reasons. Just if you're doing a risk analysis of things.
Well, we've seen things, and by the way, some of these words I might clip out. Just they'll understand what it is. But we've just seen where the CEO of Pfizer said a year ago that, hey, you take this, you're never going to get this, and he was just diagnosed with the big C. So I mean, what you're saying is maybe true if the science is really true.
A solid understanding. I think billions of people have taken these at this point, and we have pretty good data on this. Vaccines work. They work very well. These are really an amazing result of human innovation that I'm really impressed with. Again, I'm an absolutist on bodily autonomy. I don't.
Well, what do you mean by that?
I don't think we should force anyone to inject anything into their body that they genuinely are afraid of. But then we do have to consider, what is forced in this
Then
scenario.
you're not an absolutist. I mean, an absolutist would be, hey, you always have the right over your body. Your body is your own, and maybe you might be on both. Absolutists might be on both sides. Even might be even, hey, you can do whatever you want to take something out of your body, which is the abortion thing, or put into your body, right? That would be absolutist, saying. What's your opinion on that, on abortion?
Do you want to finish?
Well, I want to understand, you're absolutist on bodily autonomy. So what does that mean on both sides?
Well,
what you put in, what you put out, is that your body?
Position on, what would you say your position is on abortion?
I believe that it's human beings, so the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is in the Declaration of Independence. Well, you can't have happiness, you can't have liberty if you don't have life. So that's number one, right?
So you believe, from conception, it's a life equivalent
Yes.
to any human
Yeah.
life. And regardless of, what we enshrine in America as guaranteed rights and liberties,
Yeah.
killing a baby is, this sounds absolutely horrible to you.
When you say it that way, yes, it sounds. If everyone said it that way, it
That's
sounds
what
horrible.
it
Yeah.
is to you.
Yeah.
So, and it makes sense to be absolutely opposed to that under all conditions, no matter what.
Are you? Where do you
No,
stand? Okay.
because I don't really believe that zygotes and I don't believe human life at conception is the same thing as after birth. But so let me ask you this: what?
Well, no. Here, because we can ask each other questions, but I think people really want to know. So, when I was just trying to hone in on, and we'll get to some of the other issues because I don't want to. We could go back and forth on this, but I want to understand though, and that's what I was kind of leaning to. My personal position, but I'm just saying, like, what do you mean by absolute bodily autonomy? Because do you mean? I would think that if you say I'm absolutely for bodily autonomy, then it means, you can choose whatever you want to take out of your body, whatever you want to put into your body. I would therefore say I am not an absolutist, I'm.
I guess I do have. I'm uncertain about my positions on transhumanism, genetic engineering, turning yourself into a cyborg. That is something we're going to have to spend a lot more time philosophizing about.
It's coming, yeah. Well, but so let's talk about some of your other things. On your website, you do talk about, I do remember something about genetic GMOs. You're for GMOs. You actually,
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
You want your apples huge and insanely large.
I don't necessarily want that, but I want apples that are resistant to blight, resistant to bugs, so we don't have to cover them in pesticides all the time. I want apples that will grow under changing weather conditions. I want, food security. I want, profitable agriculture. I want, I want everything to be better.
So on that, another thing that I thought was interesting to me, and I felt that maybe your position is all energy rocks. So the reason I wanted to do this interview is because I thought it's interesting. You had a lot of things that I could say were conservative, a lot of things that were liberal. Maybe, before we get into that detail, what do you call yourself? What would you call yourself? Liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, libertarian, what is it?
So people may look at my positions and say, oh, he's a nice, interesting, centrist person. He takes what's best from everything. I disagree with that. I don't take anything from these people.
Oh, I get that. I get that from you. Yeah, that's good.
I'm just working on what I think is good for everyone within certain bounds of morality and ideals, which I am working on defining, liberty, opportunity, democracy, these things. But basically, it's easiest to just call me a centrist, not a moderate. I don't like mushy middle compromises, but you could say I'm here for the normies. I just want the government to work well and things to be nice and people to not suffer poverty and
all right, so quick fire, rapid fire, yes or no on do you like this type of energy? Nuclear.
I love nuclear. I think it's the only thing in the future fusion. Fission works for now. We need better fission. We should invest in that. Global warming wouldn't be a problem if, the Greens and environmentalists didn't freak out about nuclear back in the 70s. We'd be fine.
Windmills.
I'm fine with them. They have a big footprint. They kind of kill birds, but apparently we can just paint one of the things black, and that should stop that.
I haven't heard of that one yet.
I am interested in different approaches to wind turbine energy. I think some Spanish company is working on one that doesn't really move. Air just goes like up through it.
Oh,
But
like what's the wind tunnel thing that it's the vacuum cleaner, the same.
Dyson.
Dyson, yeah, Dyson has that one where it's just like a hollow center, and the fan, it's terrible, doesn't work, but anyway, but looks beautiful. But what's the other one?
Solar.
Solar, yes, solar.
I like solar. Sun never stops shining in a long term.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
in
not
a
efficient.
medium term, long term, the sun is going to die, but we should be fine on that.
Yeah,
Billion.
you don't think that's going to happen anytime in the next billion years, right?
I would hope we've developed a better source of energy by then. But solar, I don't really want solar farms blanketing Ohio. We don't get that much sun. Solar panels, we
They're
can only
ugly.
make so many. It would be better for all of us for us to ship them down to Arizona and they can use it.
Interesting, yeah.
We're the largest. Toledo has the largest solar manufacturing plant in the Western Hemisphere, basically outside of China. I love manufacturing things. I love making more things. I'm okay with rooftop solar in Ohio.
Natural gas
Natural gas is,
and fracking.
yeah, natural gas and fracking is there, it's in a very strange spot right now because the future, like 50, 70 years from now, is clearly not favorable to natural gas, but we definitely need it for the next like 20, 30 years.
And what do you base that on? When it's not favorable? You think we're going to run out, or what is it?
Nuclear fission and nuclear fusion will crush it. Solar and
Okay.
wind are their marginal cost is currently the cheapest. A lot of that's benefiting from subsidies, but natural gas has also benefited from massive subsidies for years, and they're struggling to show profit, but that's financing mostly. We need natural gas. It'll be useful for biofuel. It'll be useful for hydrogen. I think for at least the next 40 years, we can work out the financing and the engineering to keep it profitable and also mitigate any serious greenhouse gas concerns. Also pollution, air pollution. We want to
Sure.
avoid that.
Let's take a little sidetrack and go on to your campaign and everything. So, I like the name of this. How many people do you think are in the cabal to elect Timothy Grady?
Well, since
Is it a small?
have
Is it
to know.
Is it a small group of secret plotters as against a government or person in authority? That's the definition.
I would certainly like people to think that.
All right.
It's a good name. It's the best name I could come up with, keeping in mind I had to put my own name in it.
Yeah.
I was also considering Timothy Grady's righteous indignation.
All right. So what about? Now I got a question here because I can go to timgradyforohio.com, and then it says this is not associated in any way or something like that with darkhorseforohio.com, which is your campaign website. But are you saying you don't run that one?
No, I do run it. I just, for campaign financing purposes, me continuing to pay the domain of that website is not associated as a campaign.
Oh, so you're basically, because that could be confusing to people.
yeah,
You're basically saying this is not part of the campaign funding. This is just because you've run before
Yeah,
as
that's
a write-in.
the
Yeah,
previous thing, and that I'm doing a rebranding thing, and also initially with the Dark Horse, I was not necessarily dedicated to myself running for governor. If I could get someone better, someone with a little more executive experience, perhaps, someone.
So that's a good question too. So if between now and the 29th, someone else decides to run as a write-in and they seem better positioned for it, are you still going to do your thing, or are you?
I mean, if they want to run as the dark horse, if they come to me.
So you still want to do your campaign
I want
regardless of
the dark
yeah,
horse.
the dark horse.
Candidate. I want someone who's dedicated to independent, kind of centrist, bringing people together, not partisan, not fringe so much, but I also like running, so it's fine.
Let's do a quick speed round, and then I think we'll give you some time to just talk about anything that we haven't addressed. And so, speed round of questions. If you were elected, now this is in this context. Now, we're not talking about I want to lose or whatever, right? So you actually win. They give you all these people write in. Do you know how to run the state of Ohio government as complex? Are you confident that you can do that?
Yeah, see, here's the thing. That's what I think about a lot. Of me, DeWine, Nan Whaley, I know my ideas are better, but they definitely have, the advantage of, well, DeWine has the advantage of 50 years in politics and leading various offices. Whaley's got 8 years in Dayton, which.
Have you led large groups before in your personal life?
No, so I would not be my first choice to head the state, but neither do I think DeWine or Whaley would be my first choice. So, right. I mean, I would be lacking there, and here's the other thing: if I win, I doubt anyone in the General Assembly would back up my platform, Democrats or Republicans, unless they were really moved to tears by my dark horse candidacy, come from behind victory. So what I would be doing as governor is basically, working within the remit of the executive authority, and I would be focused on streamlining the bureaucracy, doing a reorganization, which I think a government should go through probably every 6 to 10 years, which I guess elections are timed pretty well for that, but businesses need to do that.
So I mentioned speed round, some of the things we talked about, but let's just clarify. So what are your thoughts on Trump? Do you support Trump? Do you not support him?
I don't support Trump. I never support Trump. He's so far been pretty bad for democracy, and I like democracy.
And just the clear answer: abortion. Outlaw, don't outlaw, allow. What?
I wanted to go into a little detail on that.
Okay.
Discussing with you is you just as a matter of repugnance, it would be totally repugnant to you to live under a government in a society that says killing babies, killing children is okay under any circumstances, under some circumstances. There's no compromise for you, right? Is there a compromise for you?
That's correct. It wouldn't be. Well, what would it be for you? Because you brought up babies. You brought up actual living out of the womb babies, I think is what you're talking about. You brought it up. So let me ask you, is there any situation that it wouldn't be repugnant for someone to say, let's kill this baby?
No, I don't.
Okay. I said that question oddly, I guess.
I've thought about baby Hitler a few times, but if you're given, you can't do anything else to change it.
Going back in time, okay, yeah, we're not talking.
No,
but I mean, yeah, all right.
But obviously that's repugnant.
Yeah.
But, so not everyone agrees with your position that, not your position,
my position,
that life
let's forget my position. It's about what's your position.
I know, I'm just trying to illustrate.
Yeah.
So not everyone agrees with the idea that life begins at conception. suppose I came to you with a sure-proof plan that we will have the number of abortions that occur and guarantee that all abortions happen within the first 3 months of pregnancy. Would you go for that?
It's still they're still living human beings.
Right, you would.
I mean, well, I think science. I mean, you're a pretty smart guy. When you read your website, that's pretty clear. You're a pretty smart guy, and you've got a very unusual point of view. That's why I'm here. It's interesting, and I wanted to understand a little bit more and let people understand. But I mean, we have pictures in the womb these days. This isn't 1972. We have the ability to see exactly what's in there at all stages, right? Mm-hmm. So 3 months is pretty far developed.
12 weeks? No.
Yeah. But anyway, so your stance on abortion then is status quo?
No, my stance ultimately gets to the point of no, I don't really think we should restrict it at all. But there's a long explanation.
So 9 months, 8 months, okay?
No, but as you can see, absolutely no abortions have occurred in Ohio past 6 months. Almost no abortions that occur past 5 months. There are compromise positions that 80% of people in Ohio would ultimately be okay with, but you wouldn't. So that kind of means we have to exclude you from the discussion.
Well, I think some people may have been okay with it because they knew what the system was, right? But again, this is maybe I shouldn't answer that question. I'm the one answering questions. Come on now, let's continue. I said it was speed round. It's not really speed round.
I know.
But how about Biden? How's Biden doing?
Mediocre.
So you like the price of gas? Is that pretty good? Is that mediocre?
Not bad.
$4 a gallon.
Lower, but to believe, I'm really into economics. I say economics, or I did. I understand the functioning of our government. I know that pretty much almost none of the governor, the president, most of these people shouldn't be awarded or discredited for things that are essentially entirely out of their control. Now I say that, but I of course have a brilliant and great plan to reduce the price of gas and make everything better.
All the energy.
All the energy, electric cars, lithium.
You think electric cars are energy efficient?
Pretty good. They also require less total maintenance costs over their lifetimes. And it's the internal combustion engine. This unrelated to any government action is going to be dead by mid-century. That's just the growth of technology.
Do you think the lithium? Do you think we have enough lithium to?
We have enough lithium
support an all-electric society. Or no, you're actually not for an all-electric society. You're for that amidst nuclear and...
Well, nuclear generates electricity. I
Yeah.
can't. But hydrogen works fine for me. Other fuel cells. But I'm also big on space mining, sustainable mining. I don't think we have much lithium in Ohio, but there are other rare earth elements that are important to electrifying the economy that I think we can get from coal mines, which is something we can do with our abandoned coal mines.
So, sorry. There's a couple other questions I got to ask, Sari. This could go a little bit longer, but I like this. You had, as one of the orange barrel haters in the world, you have, why are highways so expensive to build? I blame people. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, part of that is kind of more expensive in America than some other places. Part of that is because communities we've given communities immense power to just tie up any infrastructure projects in immense legal disputes. Just so that drags things out, that sends us down non-optimum paths for where we build things, what we build. And you gotta give people a say in what's built in their backyard, but also the not in my backyard people are really just making life really hard for everyone who would like to have a backyard at one point.
Sure. So, all right. So now we're going to kind of round this up, but I got to ask this question. And you have to answer it one or the other, otherwise I'm going to Alec Baldwin you. And so, two boats are departing shore. Which one will you jump on? The boat that has all Republicans or the boat that has all Democrats? You have no choice. You can't turn around. You have to go forward. You have to choose a boat.
2022 Democrats and Republicans?
No, yeah, today's. Yeah.
Today's, I would go with the Democrats.
All right.
I mean, at least they're not dying in huge numbers from COVID just because to signal their.
What do you back that up on?
Just looking at the data of counties that voted for Trump or Biden after the rollout of vaccines, the disparity in deaths just kept climbing in Republican ones, and that seems really dark to me. That that is the cost of belonging to the signaling. It's costly signaling, is what it is. Your membership in a tribe telling people that, hey, I share your values, I'm with you, and that signaling was not getting the vaccine, being exposed to the virus, and dying. It was rough. That was dark. I don't like that. I don't want.
You're really for not just GMOs and.
I'm for people not.
And you're not just for GMOs and products, in food. You're for it in people, right? mRNA,
no, if that's what you
gene
think
manipulation.
is happening with vaccines or
gene manipulation.
mRNA vaccines, that's not what's happening. You're not being genetically engineered. What I don't want is, I want people to come join the Dark Horse campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I want membership in the Dark Horse campaign to mean, to be one of us. I want you to just, live your best life. I want you to do what works for you, make good informed decisions, and follow what makes you happy. So, membership in the Republican Party meant dying. Membership in the Democratic Party meant.
No, let's hold on that point. You said, I just want you to live your best life how you want to live it, basically. I think you said something very close to that. So if living my best life is not to take one of these things, whatever your science is, isn't that my right? I mean, you can have your position and say, I feel bad for these because you think that these are, but isn't that then their right?
Yeah. And here's where I get into trying to define liberty, like freedom, like as individuals. I'm influenced by you. I'm influenced by him. I'm influenced by everyone. We're all influenced by the people we're around, the people we see on TV, advertisements, what we read, how we were raised. So, who we are as a person has been defined over time through our interactions. So, if you're making bad decisions, is your choice to make bad decisions, but also you've been.
That's the choice of liberty. Isn't that not the choice of liberty?
In the Republican Party.
Is that not the choice of liberty?
Yeah.
You have to look at your own words. You have to look at your own words. If you really want liberty, if you want people to live their best lives, if you want to live them how they see fit, then how do you then say, well, because there's a social construct and we're all influenced by people?
That I think it was a bad idea for all those people to not vaccinate and
that's your right to say it.
I would do anything different. I would, try and maybe talk to them, but people don't listen to me.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think that people haven't had enough Do you think there was a lack of information that
I
caused
think
that
there's
situation?
There
Do you think we have not had it
information
publicized
overload.
enough
We're
in
not
last?
good at managing. Social media technology is something new that we're trying to understand. But again, it became what defines us in America. We don't have the same like nationalist identity, cultural identity. Well, I mean, we're developing it, but we don't have the long histories of many other countries. So what really
We've been around almost 250 years under the same
Yeah.
constitution.
we have a
I think we're the
very
longest
solid-
living. I think we're the longest
the
living
oldest
written.
democracy. We're
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
But like we didn't have as much, a nation of immigrants in constant motion, just moving. We had much higher mobility than anyone, so we didn't build strong ties to certain locations or hometowns. For decades, it's like a hometown is just where you came from. And then you move somewhere else because this is America. There's opportunity in all different
Well, it's
places.
the land of unwalled cities. Yeah.
Right. So a lot of what has defined us and like our shared identity is our elections, democracy, our parties. Like we don't have national identity so much. Like we don't have an ethnicity so much, or long histories to call on of this is what defines us. We have, because we are of so many different origins, so many different people, religious beliefs, we have our political parties which help shape and define who we are more than
Don't you
anything.
think? Don't you think though that we're gonna have to wrap up this going long? But don't you think though that we do have a strong ethnicity in the founding of this nation, largely white, probably 90%, and then the imported population, the slave population, largely black, right? So I mean, wouldn't that be a two ethnicity majority nation?
Okay, so I think you're thinking of like race and ethnicity as the same thing.
Well-
Ethnicity is like Turk, Irish.
Sorry,
Well,
you're right.
I'm
You're
worried about
right.
saying
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
something, but so like 18.
But well, wait a minute though. The point that I was meaning, I said the wrong word. You're right to call me out of that. But from a race standpoint, right? So like, you had a pretty homogenous group of people, right? And you had two groups of people. So it wasn't like it was completely no identity to this nation.
I'm not saying we don't have an identity. I'm saying what like holds individual Americans together are our communities tend to be more politically based than communities in other countries historically have been, especially since they didn't really get democratic representative
Freedom,
government
yeah. They
until
didn't have freedom, yeah.
very late, and like a lot of their there's too much history. But what I'm saying is, so membership in our political party increasingly, and has for a very long time, but to a greater extent now, defines a lot of who we are. And we, more than ever, we tend to live in the same places as people who share our political views. We tend to like the same movies, sports, celebrities, music, and we've so since political party and every other part of life is so entwined, you don't want to lose that. Someone doesn't want to be tossed out of that. So when it seems like the party is moving in a different direction, you can allow yourself to be ejected from pretty much everything you've ever known, or you can follow them. And so that comes at a cost.
Well, but I mean, how have both parties have been in? Well,
Absolutely.
both parties have ejected. I guess you could say ejected. Both parties have gone to the point, and major parties, right, have gone to the point of becoming so extreme on some issue that the ones who were on the fence had to choose a side. Isn't choosing a side, though, actually healthy?
I'm not saying choose a side. I'm saying that because to be a member of your political party community because they have become so homogenized and unwilling to have dissenters, to be a member of the party and the culture that has defined so much of your life, you have to follow them wherever they go. Otherwise, you will feel isolated, and that is terrible, and people can't do it. So the extent that we are all free, freedom, liberty, individuality is actually not necessarily like the natural human state. It requires much more of us.
It requires us to work for it.
Individuals, just internally, to have our own beliefs, to think through everything, to really hold them against our own moral standards and say, okay, this is what I believe, and yeah, it might be influenced by the people around me, how I was raised, but this is what feels right, and I need to go with it. But so much of what we stand for, we are very malleable. We will change people have, flipped their views a lot in the last 20 years just to stay in line with where their herd is going, because we don't want to be left behind.
So on that note, and I think you kind of already did kind of do a wrap up, but is there anything we didn't touch that you wanted to talk about? Let the people know about the dark horse that we didn't talk about.
I mean,
and then maybe we'll wrap it up.
I
Or
could
yourself, yeah.
go for hours on probably
I can see that.
any sorts of things. I mean, my politics is mostly defined by being supporting the complexity economic school of economic thought, which probably most people don't realize there are multiple schools of economic thought. And people don't care about economic thought in their day-to-day lives, but that's mostly what defines my politics.
Do you like the Federal Reserve? Is it a great idea?
Is it a great idea? Independent central banking and you want to keep it as independent as possible. So far, works very well in our current global monetary system. Is there something better? Hard to say. I really love talking about money.
Well,
and
yeah.
finance.
Sorry, yeah. Let's just do your wrap up. And sorry, I had asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dark Horse campaign is about, politics does define us, and it is currently hurting us. The Dark Horse campaign is recognizing that campaigns are one of the major organizing forces in American culture, and we want to use the Dark Horse campaign to change the culture for the better, be more positive, be friendlier, try and reach outside of our partisan ruts, shake everything up, confuse a cat style. We want people to live better lives and follow their hearts, be individuals.
All right.
And do better.
All right. Well, Tim Grady, good luck to you.
Thank
you. Maybe we'll see you on the write-in for certain in the next week, right?
Yeah.
All right.